We've all heard the cliched saying that happiness is a choice. But I think that's overly simplistic. It's not accurate to our lived experience. Happiness isn't as simple as just waking up in the morning and saying, okay, I'm choosing to be happy now. It's a little bit more complex than that. Instead of teaching that happiness is a choice, as a happiness researcher and a happiness coach, I teach people that happiness is a skill. And like any skill, whether it's learning guitar, jujitsu, or even learning how to record a decent YouTube video, which I admit is a skill I'm still learning, there are stages that we will go through to master it. Now, if you stick with me for the next 10 or so minutes, I'm going to show exactly how people go from feeling stuck, frustrated, and flustered when it comes to learning new skills, especially the skills of happiness and well-being, to feeling like they're mastering it, to feeling clearer, more confident, and more capable in their ability to learn and develop these skills. Not by just chasing motivation, but by using an evidence-based framework actually makes a difference. Let's dive in. Actually, before we dive in, I probably should introduce myself, just in case this is my first video that you have come across. My name is Declan Edwards. I'm a happiness researcher, an author, and the founder of BU Happiness College, a social enterprise that teaches people the skills and science of happiness. And if you're wondering, yes, I am definitely still learning the skill of YouTube. You will see my eyes flick every so often to my scripts every now and then. It's a little comfort thing to remind myself of what I'm speaking of. I've probably re-recorded this section of the video 6 times already, but that's okay because I am practicing what I preach. I'm willing to go through the sucky beginner phase of learning a new skill, like recording videos for YouTube, in order to get better. I don't expect myself to be perfect at it straight away. And that is exactly what today's video is all about. Learning how to go through the sucky parts of learning skills around managing your mind and emotions so that you can live a happier, more fulfilled life. So with that in mind, let's talk about how we actually learn and master skills, because it's something that I didn't learn about at school. And chances are you didn't learn about learning at school either. Now, whether it's learning to cook, whether it's learning parenting skills, playing a sport, or building a happier life and learning to manage your mind and emotions more effectively, we will all go through 4 specific stages of learning. I like to describe this through the framework of learning to drive a car. So the first stage is unconscious incompetence. It means you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes this is called ignorance is bliss. If you're unaware that happiness is even a skill in the first place, then chances are you've been here for a long time, just hoping that happiness will show up if you achieve the next milestone in life. For me, when I was learning to drive a car, I knew I was at this stage before I got my license because I grew up in the era where Need for Speed was the big game on the PlayStation. And I had the full setup with the little steering wheel and the pedals. And so I remember being so cocky as a 16-year-old going to get my license and saying to my dad, I'm going to be a great driver because I've had so many hours playing Need for Speed on the PlayStation with the gear shift and the pedals and the steering wheel. And in reality, when I actually got behind the wheel of a car and was learning how to drive, I was thrust straight away into stage 2 of learning to develop a skill, which is conscious incompetence, aka the sucky part. It's when you realize it's a big oh crap moment. You realize that it's harder than you thought it was going to be. In the context of learning to drive a car, it meant I was bunny hopping the car all over the place because I was learning in a manual. In the context of learning the skills and science of happiness, this is where I see a lot of people go, I actually have a lot of unhelpful and unhealthy patterns in my thinking, in my self-talk, in how I understand and work with my emotions, but I don't know how to change them. I know that change is possible, but I'm struggling with that change. This is the phase where learning the skill feels really uncomfortable and where most people give up. They go, okay, well, it's just not for me. Now, with something like driving a car, you go, I will get through the sucky phase because I have to. Right? If I'm going to have independence, I have to learn how to drive a car. But if it's something that you're choosing to do for your own well-being, your own development, and it's not a necessity in life, which I would argue that learning the skills and science of happiness is a necessity in life, but I'm biased to those. A lot of people view them as something that's nice to do, but not an absolute necessity. And so they give up when it gets hard. But if we can push through that level 2 and get into level 3 of learning skills, we reach conscious competence. And at conscious competence, we start to get the hang of it. So we're starting to learn the tools, the strategies, the techniques. We've got the language. I hope that you're starting to learn this by watching my videos and maybe subscribing to my channel. And you still have to think about them. So for me, I'd still be in the car learning how to drive. And I was still like, okay, check the side mirrors every few seconds, check the rearview mirror every few seconds, make sure everyone's clipped in. I was very conscious with learning how to manage our mind and emotions. We might need to remind ourselves to journal a bit more, practice meditation, or reframe and challenge our negative thinking. But we are making progress over time. And then last but not least, the goal, the place that we want to end up is stage 4 of learning our skills, which is unconscious competence. At unconscious competence, the skills start to feel like second nature. Now, I can drive a car these days and listen to the radio, listen to music, and have a conversation with somebody in the car, and I'm still able to do it in a way that's safe and effective, but I don't need to give all of my attention. Or like walking. You're probably not going around your day-to-day life consciously thinking of walking. Your body's just able to do it because you've practiced it so much. This is the goal that we teach people at BU Happiness College. Imagine if you had learned the skills and science of happiness, the way where you could manage your mind more effectively, manage your emotions more effectively, and do it without needing to put your whole focus and time into it, where it's just second nature. Imagine if happiness was a second nature outcome for you. You don't have to try super hard at it, just becomes more of who you are. That is the goal and purpose of all of the work that I do in my career, including this YouTube channel. Now, these 4 stages of skill set development were first introduced by Noel Birch at Gordon Training International back in the 1970s. They've been backed by decades of educational psychology since. And I found that when people know them, they're able to give themselves a little bit more grace and compassion and go, hey, I'm not going to master a skill straight away. I need to go through the 4 stages of skill development. And they also recognize that most of the time, people will get stuck between stages 2 and 3. Because you realize that something's off. Maybe you recognize that you've been feeling unfulfilled or stressed or disconnected lately. But then when you try to figure out how to solve that on your own, you get overwhelmed. You bounce between self-help content like a Netflix menu. You read a bunch of self-help books, listen to all the self-help podcasts. Then you're surrounded by too many options and you're not practicing them enough to get good at them. And so as a result, you end up thinking that you're failing at being happy. You're failing at looking after your well-being. But really, you're just in the awkward middle part of learning a new skill. This is the sucky part. And you kind of have to embrace the suck. You've got to lean in. You've got to go, this is part of the journey. Because let's be real, we've been taught that if we suck at something, then it means that it's just not meant for us. And we shouldn't do it. That we should only stick to what we're naturally good at. That this is something called fixed mindset thinking. Dr. Carol Dweck's research showed that when people have a fixed mindset, they're more likely to achieve things very quickly, but then they plateau really fast. And their level of self-worth, self-esteem, self-compassion, their level of happiness is lower than if we embrace a growth mindset that goes, hey, challenge and sucking at something is an essential and an important part of learning to be better at something. At the end of the day, if you believe that you can improve at something and you stick with it consistently over time, you're way more likely to succeed at it. I don't care whether it's learning a language, learning an instrument, or as I'm dedicated to, learning the skills of managing your mind and emotions better so that you can live a happy life. It's the same for emotional and mental well-being skills as any other skill, but we need to recognize that it is going to suck for a bit. So the goal is to shrink the amount of time that you spend in the sucky part. The longer you are in stage 2 and a little bit stage 3 of those 4 stages of learning a skill, the more likely it is that you'll quit, you'll give up, you'll just get overwhelmed and burnt out. Even if you know the 4 stages, even if you're like, hey, sucking is part of the journey. And yes, I remember watching that video with that happiness guy. The longer you're there, the harder it is to continue. So we want to shrink it as quickly as possible. And there are 3 ways that we can shrink the amount of time that we are in conscious incompetence and we're frustrated with learning the new skill. First and foremost, surround yourself with people who are learning the same skill. There's a lot to be said about the social effect of learning a skill collaboratively and collectively and not just on your own. This is why I think self-help can sometimes be overrated, but it's over-focused on the individual. We need to focus on learning this collectively, especially skills like happiness and learning how to have a happy life. I think everyone should learn this. The great example I give with this and why I can speed up our progress so quickly, if you want to learn a language, the best way to learn that language is to make friends with people who speak the language or go to a country that speaks it and spend some time there. Now, when I was wanting to learn Spanish, my wife and I did a bit of a sabbatical in Latin America, and I found that I learned so much more and was able to speak such better Spanish after a month of being there than years of trying to learn it through online apps. The same thing happens if we want to learn about happiness psychology and happiness skill sets. If we join a community of people who are learning those skills, we're more likely to pick it up just by being around them. It's a bit of an osmosis effect of learning. The second tip to get through the sucky part of learning a skill much quicker is to work with a professional. Get a mentor, get a coach, get someone in your corner who's really good at that skill and can help point out your blind spots and keep you accountable and guide you along the way. So if I wanted to learn guitar, for example, you notice that I play guitar, I've got guitars behind me, then the best thing to do is find a really good guitar teacher in the style that you want to learn and ask them for help. If you need to pay them for their time, so be it. But somebody who can guide you, keep you accountable, point out what you're missing is such an accelerant to learning the skills. Look, you might build them yourself. You might, it's just going to take way longer and you're going to make way more mistakes than if you get an expert in your corner. And then last but not least, don't reinvent the wheel. The third tip for getting through the sucky part of learning a new skill is you don't need to start from scratch. You don't need to make things up. Use proven tools and techniques. Learn from people who've studied this for years. Don't DIY your way through it if someone else has already paved the road ahead of you. I know so much about the science and skills of happiness, not just because I've done a master's in positive psychology, not just because I've been teaching this for years, but because I've been able to stand on the shoulders of giants who came before me, read great books, go to great lectures and seminars, have great coaches in my corner where I can learn their skills and techniques, and then I can adopt the ones that work for me and integrate them into how I approach happiness in my life. And to be honest, that's a big part of why I started at my social enterprise, BU Happiness College. I wanted to create a space where people from all walks of life around the world could access a community of other people who care about living a happy and fulfilling life, where they can access experts and coaches who have the skill sets required to lead them, including myself, and who can tap into a whole library and range of practical evidence-based tools from 5 different modalities of research that help them manage their mind, master their emotions, and live a happier, more fulfilling life. And that's exactly what we've done over the last 8 years at BU Happiness College. I'm proud to say we now have members and graduates in 5 countries who are using what they learned from us, not only to boost their own happiness, but to support the happiness of their children, their partners, their teams at work, and to play their part in making the world as a whole a little bit happier. If that's something that you want to check out, I encourage you to check out the link in the description. You'll find out more about the college. But for now, let's keep going, talking about these stages of development. So I want to end this video by bringing it back to you. Where are you at right now in these 4 stages? Choose any skill of happiness: emotional intelligence, having positive self-talk, managing stress effectively, building healthy habits, whatever skill that matters to you, that you go, that if I could do that, I would feel happier. That would support my well-being. Take that skill and ask yourself, where am I at right now within the 4 stages of skill set development? Maybe you're at stage 1 and you're only just discovering as a result of this video that happiness is something that you can actually learn, that it's not just something that the lucky people experience in life. It's not based on external circumstances, although they'll influence it. It's not determined by them. If this is the case, welcome to stage 1. Maybe you've started trying some tools, you're into self-help, you're into personal development, but you're not yet seeing consistent results yet. Chances are you're at stage 2, maybe starting to come into stage 3. Wherever you are right now, it is okay. Growth is messy and mastery will take time. You may have heard of the 10,000 hours rule. Mastery takes time and consistent practice. I'm here filming right now with scripts right in front of me. I'm in stage 2 for YouTube. I know this is not a perfect video. Thank you for persevering through it. I hope you learned something from it, but I know that the only way for me to get better at sharing my knowledge in this format on YouTube is to show up and practice and keep going and give myself permission to do it imperfectly and messily. And I sincerely hope that you're able to do the same with your own mental health, your own personal development, your own happiness skill sets, because the world needs you to show up as the best and happiest version of yourself. And the only way to do that is to go through the process of learning the skills and science of happiness. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. This video that I just filmed helped you see happiness a little bit differently. Then do me a favor, give it a like, comment, help me appease the YouTube algorithm. Drop a comment showing what stage you think you're in when it comes to happiness skill set development. Ask me any questions that you have about happiness. Because in future videos, probably in the next video, I'm going to be diving into why so many people chase success first, hoping that it will bring happiness, and why that actually never seems to work. It's a common thing in positive psychology called the happiness trap. We're going to be unpacking it. So for now, remember, you're not broken, you're not doing life wrong, you're just learning, and you're in the early stages of learning the skills and science of happiness. And hopefully what you've learned from this video will accelerate that learning process and speed up your progression towards living a happy and remarkably fulfilling life. Thanks for being here.